Everything begins in a deep inside a dark dungeon where we see our main hero. Rent, a low-ranked adventurer, stood frozen in the dark cave because right in front of him towered a terrifying giant dragon. And as a lowly bronze-level adventurer, he knew he didn't stand a chance against such a beast. Instantly, the dragon lunged, and in a heartless strike, Rent's life was over. But little did he know this was just the beginning of his nightmare. When he opened his eyes, he was shocked to find himself in the exact same cave. But the truth was far more horrifying because when he looked into the water's reflection, shock rippled through him. His body had turned into a skeleton. Completely stripped of flesh, bone was all that remained, and the sight made him cry out in disbelief. No, this can't be real. The scene then shifts back to earlier that morning when Rent had woken up earlier than usual, reminding himself that an adventurer's journey always begins before dawn. Poor folks had to get up early to survive, but the wealthy and educated, in his view, had the luxury of sleeping till noon. He thought of his scholar friends always buried in research, forgetting to sleep or even eat, and in Rent's eyes, their lives felt incomplete. After grabbing his sword and getting ready, Rent set out, explaining how early rising adventurers had better chances of getting good quests from the guild. The guild always offered jobs suited to the adventurer's rank and skill, ranging from cleaning chores to monster hunts. While browsing tasks, his friends walked in and asked if he was heading back to the labyrinth of moon reflection. Rent replied that he might, unless something better turned up. Curious, they asked how he managed so many tasks alone. Once they left, Rent began his journey to the labyrinth, revealing how, unlike his fellow adventurers, he didn't party or hang out. Even after 10 years of adventuring, he was still stuck at bronze level, and that gnawed at his self-worth. Soon, Rent arrived at the entrance of Moon Reflection, a mysterious, fearsome underground tunnel system carved from within the earth, said to be crawling with monsters and dragons. Adventurers earned gold by harvesting rare materials from defeated beasts, yet nobody knew how or why monsters kept spawning there. As Rent stepped inside, he noticed a strange new door standing wide open. A glimmer of excitement sparked within him. Maybe it held a treasure or some magical item. Even if there was nothing inside, just discovering a new area and reporting it could earn him money. With that hope, he stepped in, but what greeted him wasn't treasure. It was the same giant dragon from earlier, and it attacked him viciously, bringing us back to the scene where the story began. When Rent woke up again, he was horrified to realize he was now a skeleton, an undead being that somehow still had consciousness. He panicked at the realization. How was he even alive? But then it dawned on him. He wasn't truly alive. He had become an immortal undead, the kind that priests couldn't purify and the kind that never dies. He briefly thought about returning to the city, but he knew if the guards saw him like this, they'd capture or even destroy him. Worse, the priest might do who knows what to him. So Rent wandered deep within the labyrinth, hoping that when solo adventurers passed by in the coming days, he could ask them for help. But then reality hit him again. If they saw him in this skeletal form, they'd attack on sight, mistaking him for a monster. That meant he had to practice speaking first, yet without a body, even forming a voice was hard. Just then, a skeleton monster spotted him and charged. Rent, feeling weaker than ever, knew they were evenly matched in strength, but he still had his memories, and with that experience, he drew on his soul energy, the invisible force inside all living things, to enhance his power. Using that boost, he struck the skeleton down with his sword. The monster crumbled, and Rent was stunned to see all of its soul energy flow into him, instantly making him feel stronger than before. That moment reminded him of something his teacher once said. Monsters had a hidden potential to evolve with time and experience. A skeleton could one day transform into a ghoul, a creature covered in dry, leathery flesh. Rent realized if he could absorb enough power, he could evolve too. And as a ghoul, he could wear a mask, hide his undead face, and maybe, just maybe, return to society. Meanwhile, his teacher, back in the city, was waiting for him. When Rent didn't show up, she decided to make dinner herself, unaware of the transformation he had undergone. Back in the labyrinth, Rent began hunting other skeleton monsters one by one, absorbing their soul energy and growing stronger. Eventually, he spotted a slime monster. Normally, slimes were weak, but as a skeleton, Rent knew he couldn't take risks, so he approached with caution, hiding in the shadows. As soon as the slime noticed him, it tried to spray acid, but Rent dodged, then sliced it down with his sword. From its body, he collected a magical stone and even bottled up its slime. While alive, slime was acidic and dangerous, but once the creature died, the slime turned harmless and even had uses in skincare, which Rent could sell for profit. Meanwhile, back at the guild, Sella, a guild assistant, was approached by a man asking about a new adventurer, a girl who lacked battle knowledge but was good with a sword. Sella admitted that there weren't any open tasks for her, but she had planned to ask Rent if he'd consider teaming up with the girl. Unfortunately, no one had seen Rent since yesterday. The man wondered if Rent had landed a great job, but Sella shook her head. There was no such job that would take him out of town. She then revealed that since Rent was desperate for money, she had told him about the labyrinth, warning him clearly of its dangers. The scene shifts again, showing Rent deep in the cave, sitting alone, thinking about how he no longer felt hunger or tiredness, side effects of no longer having a physical body. Still, he was quietly excited that he could now harness both soul and divining powers. He speculated that he could take on 2 monsters at once, but if 3 or more attacked, that might be his end. And yet, in this deadly labyrinth, groups of monsters weren't exactly rare. It felt almost impossible as Rent started thinking about how he had spent nearly 20 long years just trying to become an adventurer. Years where he trained brutally without a single break, learned magic seriously from his teacher, and did countless small jobs to survive. Yet even after all that effort, he was still stuck at the bronze level, and that thought burned inside him. But now, standing in this state, he made a fierce decision to rise beyond gold and platinum and aim for the mythical mithril rank instead. And with that fire in his heart, he easily cut down the skeleton monster that appeared before him and even defeated a giant slime monster, feeling genuinely happy because his strength was clearly growing. Yet suddenly the slime monster's power began flowing into his body, and in that instant his form started changing, transforming him into a ghoul. And now he looked like a dried, lifeless corpse, which strangely made him happy, though he still couldn't speak properly since his body wasn't fully formed. So he began practicing speech again, and with that came a quiet hope that he might truly become a high-level adventurer someday. And not long after, as a ghoul, he encountered 2 goblins inside the labyrinth, and because he was already much stronger than before, he chose to face them head-on, first using his soul and divine power to strengthen both himself and his sword, then striking down both goblins cleanly, realizing with surprise that he was now stronger than he had ever been as a human. And soon after, he had noticed a solo adventurer inside the labyrinth, fighting a skeleton alone and barely managing to defeat it. And this adventurer was none other than the same one Sela had mentioned earlier, someone with little combat knowledge but solid sword skills. And Rent couldn't help thinking that if he hadn't become a monster, they might have been partners. And seeing her made him happy because it had been so long since he had seen another human. But in his current state, he couldn't step forward. And then he watched as she moved toward a dangerous path known to be filled with high-level demons and monsters. And just then, a skeleton appeared behind her and attacked. And although she fought bravely, her lack of real battle experience caused her to lose ground quickly, while Rent watched from afar as the skeleton overpowered her and grabbed her sword, leaving her shaking in fear. But before the monster could hurt her, Rent rushed in and, using his soul and divine power, sliced the skeleton clean in half, saving her. Yet when she saw Rent, she panicked badly and told him to stay away. And somehow Rent managed to explain that his name was Rent and that he too was an adventurer. And hearing this, she asked if he was suffering from some illness, to which he calmly explained that he was already dead and had become a ghoul, after which she introduced herself as Reena and asked if she could leave safely. And Rent assured her that she could go because he had no intention of harming her. But in return, he asked for her help, explaining that she should buy him clothes so he could return to the city. And he handed over all the magical stones he had collected so far. And Reena realized that Rent was nothing like other ghouls or monsters, so she decided to help him and left the labyrinth with the stones. And after she was gone, Rent wondered how hard it must be for an adventurer like her to trust a ghoul. Yet deep down, he felt she wouldn't betray him. And soon we see Reena reaching Sela, who was relieved and told her she was glad she wasn't hurt because she had been worried when Reena didn't return before sunset. And Reena replied that many things had happened inside the labyrinth and that she wanted to ask something as well. While elsewhere, Rent was fighting a giant flood monster inside the labyrinth, and now, being far stronger, he defeated it with ease. And then he heard Reena calling out loudly for him. And when he reached her and saw she had returned, he felt genuinely happy. And this time when he spoke to her, his words were much clearer. And when she asked about it, he explained that he had practiced speaking a lot, which made her smile and say it was a great idea. And then she showed him the clothes she had brought, which he immediately liked. And along with the clothes, she had also brought white bandages to cover his hands and feet, making him feel deeply grateful and think about how kind she was. And after putting everything on, he looked much better. And Reena complimented him and asked him to look at himself in the mirror she brought. And when he did, he realized the outfit suited him well, though his face was still unsettling. So he tried hiding it with the suit's hood. And seeing this, Reena suggested he wear the mask she brought. And once he put it on, his face was completely hidden, which made him happy. But then he suddenly realized the mask was stuck to his face. And when he asked her about it, she admitted she had bought it very cheaply, but had checked that it wasn't cursed. And hearing that, Rent guessed the curse must have activated after wearing it. So he tried using his divine power to break the curse and remove the mask, while Reena watched in shock that he could even use divine power. But because his power ran out, he couldn't remove it. And feeling guilty, Reena apologized for for giving him a cursed mask, but Rent told her there was no need to apologize. And during that moment, he accidentally touched her and quickly apologized again. Yet instead of pulling away, Reena held his hand and told him that she knew he was a good person and that she wasn't scared of him anymore. And Rent understood she was forcing herself to trust him, so he gently told her not to force it until she truly believed in him, to which she replied that it wouldn't take long, and after that she suggested they head back to Malt City together. And soon they were riding in a horse carriage toward the city, where Reena explained that she had come to Malt City to become an adventurer, but quickly realized there were many stronger and higher level adventurers there, leaving her with no work. Yet because she had always wanted to be an adventurer, she decided to enter the labyrinth since both labyrinths were close. And hearing her, Rent calmly told her that he understood how she felt, but that an adventurer must fear danger because they only have one life. And she really liked hearing that. And after some time, they reached the city gate, where Rent explained that many people knew him there and showing his ID could cause trouble. So Reena suggested entering through another gate, and Rent thanked her, but said he didn't want her to help him further because if the truth came out, she could even lose her adventurer license. And Reena replied that she was alive only because of him and that she could risk her life for him too. And as they moved forward, the guards checked Reena's ID and let her in, but stopped Rent and ordered him to remove his mask, which made him panic. Yet Reena quickly lied and explained that Rent's face had been badly injured during a monster fight and that he was using the mask to hide it. And because the mask was cursed, it couldn't be removed. And when the guards tried removing it themselves and failed, they believed her and let them in. And once inside the city, Rent quietly slipped away from Reena, watching her search for him because he didn't want to cause her any more trouble. And he decided that once he regained a full human body, he would properly apologize to her. And then he returned to Lauren's place, finding her asleep. And when she saw him wearing a mask, she scolded him for scaring her. But when he showed her his hand, she was completely shocked and asked what had happened to him. And then Lauren said that despite all her research on monsters and magic, she had never read about a dragon eating an adventurer and turning him into a skeleton, and asked if the dragon was still in the labyrinth. And when Rent replied that it wasn't, Lauren told him honestly that she couldn't believe him right now. And hearing that, Rent understood that even she was struggling to accept his truth. Because of this new form, Lauren simply couldn't fully trust him yet, and with a heavy expression, she asked whether he was still truly Rent or if he was now nothing more than an undead creature. And hearing this, Rent calmly explained that he still had Rent's mind and all of his memories. Yet technically, he had already died, so even he didn't know if he could still be called Rent. And listening to this honest confusion in his voice, Lauren realized that for now, she had no other choice but to believe in him. And then she asked what he planned to do next, to which Rent answered without hesitation that he wanted to become a mithril level adventurer no matter what it took. But since he couldn't go to the guild in his current condition to take missions, he asked Lauren to bring missions to him instead. And Lauren replied that in this state, he couldn't live anywhere else, so he could stay with her, but she couldn't keep him for free, meaning he would have to help with her research. And by staying with her, he could also learn much more about magic and monsters. And hearing this, Rent asked if she planned to experiment on him, to which Lauren said no, though she might occasionally ask for small samples of his skin for testing. And after that, she paid Rent a large amount of money in exchange for the slime liquid he had brought back. And with that money, Rent went to a blacksmith shop to buy a new sword because his old one was completely ruined. And when the blacksmith realized that Rent could use soul magic, divine power, and physical power together, she was stunned and told him that he was only the second adventurer she had ever seen who could use all three. And she decided to take half the payment up front and the rest once the sword was finished. While elsewhere, Lauren was deeply absorbed in researching ghouls, reading through books that explained how ghouls were physically strong, highly resilient, and naturally drawn to human flesh. And she was shocked to learn that undead ghouls normally lose their memories and human emotions after transforming. Yet Rent hadn't, which made him completely different and special. And then we see memories from the past, showing how when Lauren became a doctor at a very young age, Rent became her assistant. And when a goblin attacked them in the forest, Rent helped her fight it off. And when Lauren learned about his deep knowledge of herbs and medicine, she was impressed and asked him to learn even more alongside her. And from that moment on, they stayed together, supporting and understanding each other. And later, the blacksmith gave Rent a temporary sword to use until his real one was ready. And after thanking the husband and wife Smiths, Rent left, knowing they too could sense soul energy and magic, and that they understood he was affected by some kind of curse. And later that evening, Rent sat at the dinner table with Lauren, who told him she had reread all her books and confirmed again that he was nothing like a normal ghoul, and asked him what he wanted to do next. And Rent replied that he wanted to live among humans while focusing on evolving further so he could return to his original form someday. And because he had grown stronger and evolved by killing monsters in the labyrinth, he decided to return there once more. And the next scene shows a man struggling desperately against a slime monster inside the labyrinth, unable to hold his ground. But just before the slime could kill him, Rent arrived and cut it down, saving the man, who thanked Rent for saving his life and asked to join his party, explaining that he was actually a simple chef who ran a restaurant in the city but had become an adventurer due to crushing debt, and Rent wasn't sure about keeping him, yet leaving a new adventurer alone would be dangerous. So he agreed and said the man could at least help carry supplies. And together they entered the same cave where the dragon had once attacked Rent, where they discovered a hidden passage that led them into an empty room. And in the center of that room was a magical teleportation circle that only Rent could see. But despite Rent warning him, the man stepped inside, and the moment he stood on the circle, he was teleported away. And seeing this, Rent immediately teleported as well to save him, arriving in a place where he found the man injured on the ground and a giant skeleton monster standing before them. Realizing they had wandered into a boss room, and since Rent was far stronger now, he decided to fight it alone, first enhancing himself and his sword with soul and divine power, then attacking the giant skeleton's legs to bring it down before striking its head and finally defeating it, after which he healed the chef's wounds with his power and brought him back to consciousness. And the man couldn't believe that Rent had defeated such a monster alone, thanking him repeatedly, and Rent decided to give the large magic stone obtained from the giant skeleton to the chef, who was stunned by this generosity, and Rent showed him his own skin and explained that since he was no different from a monster now, he couldn't enter restaurants or the guild, so he needed the chef to act on his behalf. And the man immediately agreed, and Rent even asked for free meals at the restaurant in return, which the chef gladly accepted. And then Rent sent him back through the teleportation circle and out of the labyrinth. And soon we see Rent standing outside the chef's restaurant as the man introduced him, calling out and bringing his wife Isabel, who was overjoyed to see her husband alive. And when the chef explained that Rent had saved him and showed her the large magic stone, Isabel was overwhelmed with happiness because it meant all their debts could be cleared and they could restart their restaurant properly. And both Isabel and her husband thanked Rent sincerely. And since the chef didn't know Rent's name, he stopped him and introduced himself as Loris while asking for Rent's name. And Rent told him his name on the condition that he never tell anyone else, which Loris promised, inviting Rent to eat there anytime. And as Rent walked back toward Lauren's house, strange changes stirred in his senses. And he thought about how Loris was a good man who hadn't lied about his life or his restaurant, yet a part of him wished it weren't so, because while they were in the labyrinth, seeing Loris's blood had made him feel something unsettling, a desire to kill and eat him like a ghoul would, though he had managed to control himself. And now he told himself that if he ever used that urge, it would only be on someone truly evil. And when Rent returned to Lauren, she asked about his experience in the labyrinth and whether he had encountered a dragon again. And when he said no, she continued talking and asking questions, but Rent barely listened, instead stepping forward and hugging her tightly. And before she could understand what was happening, Rent lost control and bit into her shoulder as his ghoul instincts took over, craving human flesh. And shocked, Lauren pushed him away and urgently asked if Rent was still inside, wanting to know if he had lost his memories and emotions completely. And once she confirmed that he was still conscious, she used her magic to calm him down and put him to sleep. And later, when Rent woke up, he apologized deeply for attacking her, knowing he had lost control. But Lauren told him not to dwell on it, calling it an accident, and Rent then explained that ever since he had seen Loris's blood in the labyrinth, those urges had begun. And Lauren listened carefully before telling him to rest, deciding to rest herself as well, because the next day she would need to sell nutrition magic at the pharmacy to buy important ingredients to heal her wound. Yet even then, Rent couldn't stop watching her with quiet guilt weighing heavily on his mind. Rent stopped her and asked her to show him the wound. And hearing this, Lauren revealed her injury, after which Rent used his divine power to heal it completely, leaving Lauren stunned because he was now able to use divine power far more smoothly than before. And at the same time, Rent realized he could control his cursed mask much better and could speak more clearly. And when he looked at his own body, a quiet happiness filled him because he could feel himself moving rapidly from a ghoul toward a human body, with many positive changes already taking place. And Lauren explained that these changes had appeared after he drank her blood. Then she calmly broke it down for him, saying he had first become a skeleton and then transformed into a ghoul. And now he seemed to be moving toward a ghast-like state, creatures that usually serve vampires, though Rent admitted he had never seen a ghast before and didn't understand why he was changing into one. So Lauren explained the concept of essentia evolution, saying that a powerful monster could transform into any form based on its will. And since Rent strongly wished to become human again, that desire might be shaping his evolution. Or it could be coincidence, or perhaps there was some deeper reason they hadn't yet uncovered. Because even now, Lauren couldn't fully explain how Rent had gone from skeleton to ghoul and was now showing human-like changes. And then she told him about a a ritual that required a small monster, usually found in volcanic regions, adding that the environment itself might also be affecting his body, though she wasn't completely sure, yet she reassured him that returning to being human was possible, after which she asked Rent to remove all his clothes so she could examine every part of his body with magic, but he firmly refused. And the next morning, after practice, Rent went to the blacksmith with the temporary sword she had given him, since it had been damaged during the fight with the giant skeleton, and the blacksmith was shocked by the condition of the blade and asked if there was really a monster in the labyrinth capable of doing that. So Rent explained about the giant skeleton in an unexplored area and their battle, which surprised her greatly, and when she asked if he had fully explored that area and he said no while asking for his sword, she told him it still wasn't ready and handed him another temporary blade instead. And taking it, Rent headed back toward the labyrinth, saying he wanted to defeat more giant monsters in the unexplored areas and evolve into a human as quickly as possible. And on the way, he spotted Loris and his wife buying fresh vegetables and meat to reopen their restaurant that very day, which made Rent quietly happy. And later we see Lauren preparing a special serum while Rent watched closely. And after it was finished, she gave it to him to drink. And when he complained about its bitterness, she calmly said he might be the first human-like being in the world capable of drinking such poison. And she was completely shocked to see that her healing herbal serum was actually working on his body. Then she asked if he still couldn't sleep, and Rent told her he didn't sleep at all, but felt a strong desire for human blood and flesh. Hearing this, she gave him another serum, and after drinking it, he realized it wasn't a serum at all, but Lauren's blood, because she already knew about his cravings and had experimented on her own blood to create it, and just a single drop was enough to satisfy his thirst completely. And after that, Rent told her he was heading back to the labyrinth, but first needed to get a job from the guild. And Lauren warned him that he would need to show his ID, and if the guild learned he had returned, it would cause a huge stir. Yet Rent replied that he was only a bronze level adventurer, so it wouldn't matter. But Lauren corrected him, saying that even as a bronze adventurer, people liked him because he helped newcomers, and the guild had been considering hiring him. And when Rent asked how she knew all this, she admitted she had connections in the guild. Then she advised him to go with a new identity, and following her advice, Rent changed his appearance and went to the guild, where Sela didn't recognize him and helped him register as a new adventurer. And when paperwork was needed, Rent lied that he couldn't read or write, so Sela assisted him, a move Lauren had suggested so the guild wouldn't question what had happened to him. And with a new identity, he officially joined again, starting from level 1, the Iron rank, registering under the name Rent Vivian instead of his original name, Rent Faina. And when Sela saw the name Rent Faina, she mentioned how an adventurer by that name had disappeared recently, and Rent replied that he was new to the city and staying with a relative named Lauren, and from talking to her, he could tell that Sela had missed him quite a lot. And after completing the process, she handed him an iron badge, telling him he was now an iron adventurer and to take care of himself because he reminded her of Rent Faina. And soon after, we see Rent inside the labyrinth, spotting a very young swordsman and a healer fighting a goblin and a low-rank slime together, and confident they would win. Rent moved on to explore deeper, thinking that if he didn't find a giant monster, he could at least report the secret section of the labyrinth to the guild for a promotion, which would be a big achievement for an iron-ranked adventurer. And using the teleportation circle, he reached an unexplored section where he found a strange room containing the skeleton of an adventurer, shocking him because someone had clearly lived there. And suddenly a woman attacked him, knocking him back as she was guarding that room. But when his clothes burned away and she saw his body, she realized she had misunderstood him, apologized, and gave him a cloak to wear, asking him not to tell anyone about that room because it was special to her. Then she handed him a magical map and teleported him outside the labyrinth. And Rent brought the map to Lauren, who couldn't understand it at first because her magic didn't react to it, so she asked Rent to try. And when he did, the entire map of the Moon Reflection Labyrinth appeared, showing the locations of all adventurers inside, leaving both of them stunned, and they soon realized the map only revealed labyrinths the owner had personally entered. And when Rent asked about the cloak, Lauren explained it was protective armor, and wanting to learn more about the mysterious room and woman, Rent decided to return, knowing she was extremely powerful, yet hadn't forbidden him from coming back. And back in the labyrinth, he easily killed a skeleton monster. But when he reached the secret door, it was sealed shut, and even the magical map couldn't help, making Rent realize the mysterious woman likely didn't want him to return yet. While elsewhere in the guild, Sela was being asked about Rent, but she still had no information, and many people inspired by Rent had become adventurers and missed him, and Sela herself liked him and had joined the guild because of him, leaving her upset by his disappearance. And just as she was thinking this, Rent appeared asking for a mission to kill 3 orcs, and although she initially refused because it was too dangerous for an iron-ranked adventurer, when Rent told her he had killed orcs before she approved the mission and advised advised him to be careful, and in the next scene, Rent returned to the guild showing the meat from the 3 orcs he had slain, stunning Sella that he had completed such a hard task alone, and impressed, she asked him to wait and returned, with documents saying she had convinced her senior to approve his promotion to bronze rank, explaining he only needed to pass a small exam, which Rent welcomed eagerly because he was determined to reach the mithril level as soon as possible. And when Lauren later learned that Rent had registered using her surname, she scolded him for it, saying people would talk. But Rent calmly explained he did it so others wouldn't gossip, since he often came to her house and introduced himself as her relative. And the next day, Rent arrived at the guild to take the bronze exam, surprising Sella because she thought he might not show up. And just then, the examiners arrived and began explaining the rules to all the candidates. The examiner explained that first there would be a written test, and only the candidates who passed it would be allowed to move on to the practical exam, and after clearing both, they would officially become bronze-level adventurers. And as Rent looked around, he noticed the same swordsman and healer he had seen earlier in the labyrinth were also there to take the exam. And since Rent had already taken this test once before, he passed it with ease, earning praise from Sela for his high marks, after which Rent calmly asked what the practical exam would involve, and Sela explained that he would need to form a team and complete a task together. Then she called over the swordsman and healer, telling them that for one day the 3 of them would be a team and must finish the mission together, introducing the swordsman as Rise and the healer as Laura, and both of them explained their abilities to Rent, after which Rent told them he fought with a sword and could also use spirit energy and magic, though he kept his deeper powers secret. And soon the instructors arrived and handed maps to all candidates, explaining that they must follow the map into the New Moon Labyrinth and reach the marked location, explaining that the first team to arrive would receive a reward and that candidates could use any method necessary to complete the task. And with that, Rent set out with Rise and Laura, while other teams headed out as well, and noticing the map was outdated, Rent suggested buying a new labyrinth map. And since Rise and Laura didn't have enough money, Rent bought it himself. And when they compared the new map to the guild's version, it was clearly more accurate, earning him their thanks. And soon they entered the New Moon Labyrinth, where they encountered several skeleton monsters and defeated them easily. And during the fight, Rent felt genuinely happy watching Rise and Laura's teamwork. And as they moved deeper, Rent discovered a strange powder commonly used by humans, realizing that skeleton monsters were being drawn there because of it, which made him conclude that humans must be hiding inside the labyrinth. So he warned Rise and Laura to stay alert, and sensing danger, he took the lead. And not long after, a group attacked them, but Rise and Laura fought bravely alongside Rent, with the 2 of them taking down the group's leader while Rent handled the rest with ease. And seeing Rent's strength, Rise and Laura decided to follow his lead as they continued forward. And after they left, a man who had been hiding during the fight stepped out and muttered that he might know who Rent really was, while at the same time, higher officials in the guild began to suspect Rent as well, because he was far stronger and smarter than his rank suggested, and there was very little information about him, instructing Sela to report anything she learned immediately. And meanwhile, Rent, Rise, and Laura reached the boss room area, where another group of candidates arrived and mocked Rise and Laura for their young age, even behaving rudely toward Laura, which angered Rent enough to point his sword at them, making them panic and claim it was just a joke, even offering to let Rent's group go first. But instead, Rent calmly offered to let them enter the boss room first, which delighted the other group. And when Rise questioned why Rent would do something so foolish, the answer became clear moments later when those candidates stumbled out injured, making Rise and Laura realize Rent had let them go first purely to keep them safe. And Rent explained that if an adventurer feels they cannot win a fight, retreating is the smartest option and does not make them a coward. And with renewed resolve, Rise and Laura decided to face the boss themselves because they truly wanted to become bronze-level adventurers. And seeing their courage made Rent smile as he entered the room with them, where they found a giant slime boss that immediately attacked. And although Rise charged first, he quickly realized he couldn't defeat it alone. And remembering Rent's advice that brute force wouldn't work, Laura prepared her fire magic while Rent stepped in to help Rise. And once Laura completed her spell, she unleashed her flames, weakening the slime. And before it could regenerate, Rent shattered its magic stone, killing it completely. And after defeating the boss, Rise and Laura were overjoyed, and Rent told them to collect the monster's liquid to sell later. But at that moment, the other group of candidates entered and immediately fell unconscious due to a sleeping gas trap, making Rise and Laura understand that the guildmaster hadn't wanted them to rush, but to complete the task properly. And soon the 3 returned to the examiner, who awarded them bronze badges and bonus gifts for reaching the boss room first, explaining they could receive their official tags at the desk, and all 3 happily went to Sela, who handed them their official bronze adventurer tags. And soon the man who had been watching them approached Sela, revealing he had been sent by the guild to observe them and confirm they were good-hearted adventurers, since the guild never promotes those with bad intentions. And now that the mission was complete, it was time for the team to part ways. And after thanking Rent for his help and guidance, Rise and Laura admitted they wanted to keep working with him, but Rent had his own plans. And once they left, Sella questioned Rent about what had really happened to him. And realizing she suspected something, Rent warned her that if the guild judged him for the truth and tried to punish him, he would leave forever. But Sella assured him the guild didn't know his secret and that the Watcher in the Labyrinth was actually her brother, explaining she only wanted to know the truth because Rent had changed and saved many lives, including hers, and wanting to help him, she proposed a magical contract promising never to reveal his secret under penalty of severe magical punishment and a life of slavery in another land. And Rent was shocked she would go that far, but he signed the agreement and showed her his true face, explaining everything that had happened to him, which left Sella deeply saddened and determined to support him. And Rent then took her to Lauren's house, where Lauren was clearly unhappy to see her because she had begun to develop feelings for Rent. But when the three sat together, Lauren jokingly tried to scare Sella by claiming she was a terrible woman who ate children, though Sella wasn't fooled since she knew Lauren was a researcher. And after dinner together, Sella learned that Rent cooked, cleaned, and controlled himself by drinking Lauren's blood. Then Sella revealed that many knights had recently gone missing across the kingdom, and while Lauren suggested monsters were responsible, Sella pointed out there were no traces left behind, meaning the guild suspected certain individuals, including Rent. And hearing this, Rent decided to stay away from the labyrinth for a few days to avoid suspicion. And later we see Rise and Laura waiting for good missions as bronze adventurers, while Sella spoke with the guild master, who asked about the missing Rent Fina, explaining they had wanted to recruit him, and Sella cleverly suggested that the new Rent was also an excellent knight, subtly guiding the guild to consider him instead. And though Lauren later discovered Rent had secretly gone back to the labyrinth and scolded him for leaving before the kidnappers were identified, Rent instead met the blacksmith, who handed him his modified sword and explained it could now use mana, encouraging him to test it, and Rent buffed the sword with magic and easily split a wooden block, surprising the smith, who noted Rent and his mana were stronger than before. And when Rent added spirit energy, the wood even sprouted new leaves, astonishing the smith because divine power was usually granted only by gods. And Rent explained he might have received it after repairing an abandoned shrine. Then he asked to test all powers together, prompting the smith to warn him about mana fusion and the risk of his body exploding. But Rent insisted, believing his body was far stronger than a normal human's. And after being given a spare sword, Rent buffed himself with magic and spirit energy, feeling intense pressure as if forcing too much into a small space. Yet he still struck, and when asked if he would add divine power too, he said yes without hesitation, declaring he would become a mithril-class adventurer. And as cracks formed in the sword from the overwhelming power, Rent struck again, destroying it into a small glowing orb. And the smith returned his real sword, explaining it could handle divine power, but not what Rent had just attempted, adding that if Rent faced an enemy immune to basic mana fusion, he would need dozens of such swords, which Rent couldn't afford. And realizing how much money he would need for equipment and his goal, Rent walked away and soon noticed a boy begging an adventurer for help, only to be refused because the job wasn't from the guild. And stepping in, Rent paid the adventurer to leave and told the boy he would accept the job without guarantees, learning that the request was to defeat the Lord of the Lake, after which they went to Lauren, where the boy introduced himself as Dats from Totsuka Village, explaining the village legend about sacrificing a girl filled with mana to appease the Lord of the Lake, a ritual now reenacted every year as a festival, even though no real sacrifice occurs. But this time, the Lord of the Lake had truly returned, had appeared from the lake, and actually devoured the girl who was playing the sacrifice role. And now the Lord of the Lake was demanding even more sacrifices, which was why several girls from the village had already died. And the next one chosen was his own sister, something he absolutely could not allow. So Rent traveled to the village with Rydas and noticed a strange mark on a house door, asking about it. And Rydas explained that since it was his sister's turn, the mark had been placed on their home. And soon Rydas' sister Amiris opened the door, letting them inside while angrily questioning who the strange man was, only for Rydas to explain that Rent was a good person who had come to help them. And Amiris firmly said that this festival had existed in the village for generations, and she did not want to save her own life by putting the entire village at risk, asking Rent to leave. But Rent refused, saying he had been hired and could not abandon the job. And the next day, Rent walked around the village and saw a merchant caravan giving dried fruits to children and asking them to call their parents so business could happen. But when Rent approached, the children ran away in fear because of his appearance. And the merchant asked if Rent had come for the festival, warning him that he had arrived at a terrible time since the Lord of the Lake was angry and villagers were too scared to even buy goods, advising him to leave until Rydas called Rent for lunch, later explaining that the merchants often visited and were usually good people. And that night, the villagers prepared Amiris for the sacrifice, apologizing to her and saying it was necessary for everyone's survival. But Amiris calmly said she had no regrets and didn't want to anger the Lord. And when Rent arrived, he tried to stop her, telling her to think about her brother, her only family, promising that he and Radis would handle the Lord of the Lake together. But Amiris said the Lord was not some weak being that anyone could defeat. Yet Rent insisted she trust her brother and not sacrifice herself. And despite his words, the ritual continued, and Amiris was sent to the lake, with Rent and Radis following, when suddenly a strange light appeared, and a massive monster rose from the water, making Amiris believe it was the Lord of the Lake. But Rent stepped forward and stood on the surface of the water itself, shocking both of them, though in truth it was alchemy given to him by Lauren. And when the kraken-like monster launched fireballs at him, Rent realized something was wrong, because such monsters couldn't normally use fire magic. So as he dodged and tried to attack, the illusion vanished, revealing a large ship behind it belonging to the merchants. And Rent finally understood that they were creating a fake Lord of the Lake using illusions and magic attacks. But before they could escape, the merchant group attacked him, only for Rent to easily handle them. And the next day, Amiris revealed the truth to the villagers, exposing how the merchants had used illusions to steal girls as sacrifices. And when questioned, the merchants confessed that all the girls were still alive and were being sold to another country, prompting villagers to rush to rescue them. And though Rent's job was complete, Radis and Amiris begged him to stay for the festival. But Rent had to return, so Amiris thanked him one last time, and back home, Rent told Lauren everything, only for her to tease him by asking if Amiris had fallen in love with him, which he denied. And soon Rent returned to the guild looking for a new job since he needed work, noticing a request to retrieve a dragon blood flower for only a single bronze coin, a reward so low no one would take such a dangerous task. Yet Rent accepted it when he learned it was posted by an orphanage trying to save a life. And Sella explained the flower grew near poisonous swamps, and at the orphanage, a little girl named Elise greeted him, amazed that a bronze adventurer accepted the job, explaining they needed just one flower because it was too rare and expensive to buy. And when Rent asked why they needed it, she asked him to keep it secret before introducing him to the headmistress, Priestess Lillian, who revealed she was slowly dying because she used divine power without a proper blessing, causing evil energy to accumulate inside her, and only the dragon blood flower could save her. Yet Lillian herself didn't know the truth because she would leave everything behind and accept death as a gift from God. So Rent promised to bring the flower before that happened, and first went to clear monsters in the basement where giant rats attacked him, one biting his hand and changing color after tasting his blood and remembering Lauren's words about vampires. Rent commanded the rat, which obeyed, shocking Elise, and he later brought the rat to Lauren, explaining it was now his party member, making her realize Rent could control monsters like vampires, allowing him to keep it only if it provided blood and hair samples for research. And after naming it Edel, Rent spent a sleepless night thinking until Lauren cooked for him before his journey, warning him about the dangerous Tarascan monster near the swamp, and giving him holy water, mixing her blood into his food so he could endure the trip. And the next day, a carriage dropped Rent at the edge of the poisonous swamp, where he noticed rare plants, powerful monsters, and goblins that immediately attacked him with arrows. But Rent was no low-level adventurer anymore, and he calmly prepared to fight back as he stepped deeper into the deadly marsh. He cut them down in a single clean strike, and then scolded Edel, telling him not to just sit on his shoulder like a lazy master, but to actually help sometimes. And as Rent moved forward, he suddenly realized that being undead had its own advantages because the poisonous swamp couldn't harm him at all. Yet while walking, he accidentally slipped into the water, and Edel jumped away instantly to save himself. And in that very moment, a monster attacked Rent, which he killed before climbing back out. And elsewhere, Lauren was talking to Sheila, explaining that the guild had learned about Tosu village, where Amiris and the other girls were rescued from the merchants, but no villager revealed the name of the adventurer who helped them, because doing so would have led to Rent being penalized or even suspended by the guild. And Sheila then asked Lauren if she knew why Rent wanted to become a mithril-level adventurer, to which Lauren replied that she didn't know and had never asked because she didn't want to interfere in his personal matters. While back in the swamp, Rent encountered the Tarascan monster and tried to escape since the holy water Lauren gave him had no effect. But suddenly he hit a dead end and had no choice but to fight, attacking with magic that did nothing, then combining mana and spirit energy, which still failed to deal fatal damage, until Edel rushed in, climbed onto the monster, and Rent realized the rat was using his own divinity power without permission, even entering the monster's mouth. And though Rent scolded Edel for that, he noticed the monster writhing in pain and understood its weakness was divine magic. So this time he buffed his sword with divinity, dodged its attacks, and cleanly severed its neck, after which Edel demanded credit, and Rent laughed and thanked him too, then packed the Tarascan body away and reached a place filled with countless dragon blood flowers, realizing the area was safe and pure because of them. But just as he was about to pick some, Edel warned him, and Rent noticed an unfamiliar elf, who remarked that seeing someone here was surprising. And when Rent asked if he came alone, the elf said yes, explaining he had items to resist poison, holy water to repel the Terescan, and a map, and that he too needed dragon blood flowers, asking if he could take some, which Rent allowed. And after taking a few, the elf said they were for his mistress, who seemed gravely ill, prompting Rent to say he would pray for her. And then the elf offered Rent a job with good pay to gather dragon blood flowers, introducing himself as Isaac and promising to arrange everything later. And when Rent returned to the guild and asked Sheila for a butcher, she was shocked and asked if he really killed a Terescan. But Rent told her to keep her voice down since everyone was staring, and she led him to Dario the butcher, who prepared with masks as poison leaked from the Terescan body, praising Rent for killing it in a single blow and confirming he'd earn a lot. And afterwards, Sheila told Rent he had grown incredibly strong and could easily reach silver rank. While Rent thought about Isaac, sensing he was powerful, and reflected that without his undead body, he would still be a weak adventurer, even after 10 years of effort. And the next day he delivered the dragon blood flower to the orphanage, meeting the herbalist Norman and healer Umbert, who were amazed a bronze adventurer managed it. And when Norman asked to use the extra flowers to help others, Rent gave them freely, asking only that they be used well, and Elise thanked him emotionally, promising gratitude forever. And when Rent suggested adventurer training and even offered to lend money without interest, she accepted. Later, Lauren agreed to train her, but teased Rent about his words around young girls, joking that there was one young woman he knew well, meaning herself, though Rent didn't realize it until she showed off new offensive magic, forcing him to praise her poetically, which pleased her greatly. And the next morning, Rent went alone to the guild, where Sheila gave him a letter from the Lutter family offering him a job, explaining their immense influence, meaning he couldn't refuse if he wished to stay in Malt. And while the orphanage prepared medicine for Lillian and saved her life, Rent went to the Lutter residence, passed through a magical labyrinth guided only by senses and hints, met a mysterious girl who offered him tea from a priceless magical tea set, admired his transforming mask but respected his refusal to sell it, hinted again to avoid looking at the sun, and finally revealed herself as Laura, the head of the Lutter family, who showed him countless magical items, including a mana-powered airship model and a living painting that triggered a golem attack, forcing Rent to fight while recalling Lauren's teachings about golems, preparing himself to face the danger head-on as Isaac searched for the shutdown device. Isaac shouted out, and Rent asked if he had found the shutdown device yet, but Isaac still hadn't located it. So Rent decided to use a fusion of mana and spirit energy, preparing himself as the golem lunged at him. Yet before Rent could strike, Laura spoke a single word, and the golem instantly shut down, making Rent think they had finally found the device. And the three of them awkwardly apologized to each other for triggering the golem in the first place. After which, Laura asked Rent if he liked any items, and while exploring further, his eyes locked onto a bottle that made his body instinctively react, telling him it was vampire blood that could turn anyone into a vampire. And when Rent asked if that was true, Laura replied that it was only a rumor, and records showed that those who drank it either died or went insane. And even if someone became a vampire, they would never admit it publicly or they'd be hunted down, though she added that selling it could make him insanely rich. And after thinking it through, Rent decided to take it, while Laura also gifted him an airship for completing the dragon blood flower job. And elsewhere, Isaac crushed the dragon blood flowers into a drink for Laura and asked if she liked Rent, to which she subtly implied she did. While back home, Rent showed the vampire blood to Lauren and told her he wanted to use it to evolve. But Lauren was scared and warned him that according to Laura, everyone who drank it died or lost their sanity. Yet Rent admitted he was afraid, but also knew his body needed it to evolve. And Lauren said she didn't care if he stayed undead forever, living in her house. But she knew he wouldn't listen, because becoming a mithril-class adventurer was his lifelong dream. And when she mentioned that Sheila had once asked about his goal, Rent pushed her to explain, leading Lauren to admit that despite knowing him for years, he had never truly opened up about his past, reminding him that he once said an adventurer's past should never be questioned. And Rent finally confessed that he wanted the power to stop a tragedy, recalling his childhood in a remote village called Hathla, where his father traveled to shop for villagers. And when Rent was about 5, his parents took him to the city for the first time, along with his best friend Jinlin, a cheerful girl who dreamed of seeing the world and promised to become strong enough to protect him. But on their way back, a massive, ferocious wolf attacked, killing his grandmother and parents. And though Jinlin dragged Rent away, the wolf toyed with them and attacked again. And when it lunged at Rent, she pushed him aside and took the blow herself, smiling weakly as she told him to become strong. And just as Rent was about to be killed, an adventurer arrived, forcing the wolf to retreat, apologizing that things don't always happen when we want them to. And later, when the bodies were brought back, Rent asked that adventurer how to become strong, learning he needed time, knowledge, literacy, and training. And that man introduced himself as Wilfred, a mithril-class adventurer, telling Rent to survive and meet him again someday, which became Rent's unbreakable goal. And now, after 20 years of effort, he was still only bronze rank, but he refused to give up, even if drinking the vampire blood killed him. And though Lauren warned she'd bury him properly if he died, Rent drank it anyway, feeling nothing at first until unbearable pain tore through his body as it began changing, terrifying him until he heard Lauren's voice urging him to hold on to his dream. While elsewhere, the blacksmith forged an even stronger sword for Rent. Elise began training with a broom, Rise, Reena, and Laura took new guild jobs. And when Rent finally opened his eyes, he joked about wanting more sleep after so long without it, only for Lauren to notice wings on his back that shrank when he focused, confirming he had become a vampire. And later, as they walked outside, Lauren asked if he ever searched for Wilfred, Rent admitting he hadn't found him in this country, but now felt strong enough to travel beyond it. And when Lauren said she wanted to join him if she could, Rent laughed and said he was about to ask her the same thing. And with that, this anime first season of the Unwanted Undead Adventurer comes to the end.